Perfect.
Thank you. So, my name's Lisa Murray, and I, along with Susan Mathison, are two of the four founders of this project called Common Man for Ukraine. And we're going to, I don't know how much time we have, but we're going to try to talk about kind of how we got started, what we do, why we love it, why we believe in it, and then what we hope for. So, in the beginning, the four of us live in a small town in New Hampshire, and we listened to the news and heard about the tanks lining up and the bombs and the invasion starting in February of 2022, and thought, what can we do as four people in rural New Hampshire? So together we decided we would try to make a difference and use actually the Rotary connections around the world to understand some of the needs that might be happening in the early stages of the invasion. So one of the founders, Steve Rand, who's a Rotarian here, along with Alex Ray, the other founder, they called the district governor in Poland and set up a Zoom call. And we said, we'd like to come and hear what Rotary is already doing in Poland and Ukraine to support the Ukrainians and the refugees that were flowing from Ukraine into Poland. And so we gave them 3 days notice and we flew out there, and we were greeted by about 16 different clubs. This is a picture of that first meeting in Warsaw. And 16 Rotary clubs were there and shared what they were already doing in response to the invasion and the refugee influx into Poland. And we listened and we were captivated by not only the need, but also the Rotary response already was incredibly impressive. And so we decided to get involved in and became very passionate about raising money to support the Rotary efforts in Poland and Ukraine. And on our first trip, we also actually took a drive into Ukraine. This picture here is Richard Wushin, who is a former district governor in Poland, and he is very active in his club in Zamość, Poland, which is right on the border between Poland and Ukraine. And so that is us kind of getting ready to plan out our trip to drive into Ukraine to visit refugee centers there and look at some of the temporary housing that was being stood up and some of the needs of the internal refugees in Ukraine. So there were a lot of needs at the beginning of the invasion that are different today, or what we've witnessed have been different. So at the beginning there, the Rotary groups there were raising money for blood mobiles. They were putting up temporary housing for families. And so we responded, we were raising money for that. And then over time, we kind of came to understand that the Ukrainian children had very great needs that were somewhat underserved and had less attention being given to them as the war progressed. So we learned that the Russian invasion has displaced 4.3 million Ukrainian children, and that more than half of the country's estimated 7.5 million children, that more than 1.8 million children crossed the border into neighboring countries as refugees. 2.5 million children are displaced within Ukraine. Russians have forced at least 6,000 Ukrainian kids into facilities across Russia, and that's known. It's widely known as an underestimate of how many children have been taken into Russia or Russian occupied areas to try to convert them into kind of Russian speaking and Russian influenced children. And got to move my little screen here to see the last one. And that 24% of Ukrainian children experienced shelling or bombing in the last year. So this is what we were seeing. This is what we were sensing and reading about. And so that is the children is what we became committed to over the last 2 years. So there are two main things that we do, actually three, for the Common Man for Ukraine. So one is a refugee center that's in just outside of Warsaw, Poland, and it's a Monday through Friday support center for mostly mothers and their children. It's run by the Constantian Poland Rotary Group, and they provide language support, helping moms get jobs in Poland, helping them learn Polish and English, giving childcare to children, and then also trauma counseling for the children and the mothers that are located there. The second thing that we do are the food and supply convoys. These happen about 2 times a month. And so the funds that we raise here in the United States go to purchase food there in Poland and other parts of Europe, sleeping bags, generators, and other essential supplies. And then the Rotarians come together every month. They load up the convoys from the warehouses that are kept there in Poland, and they deliver them based on the needs. So they figure out each month what safe houses, what orphanages, and what villages need the food and the sleeping bags and other support the most, and that's where they deliver to that month. So this is a picture of a child. It's one of the most captivating photos that we have. She's in front of the bombed out apartment building where she lived with her family. Next to her is the food that the Rotarian convoy brought to her town, and she's holding a picture that shows the Rotary Club and the local Rotary Club here, Plymouth, New Hampshire, that is the fiscal agent for the Common Man for Ukraine, and they were the first donors for the project. And then the other 2 photos are the warehouses that we maintain in Poland, where the supplies are kept, getting ready for the convoys. So this is actually on our most recent trip. We were just there. I think we got home about 5 days ago, and we participated in one of the convoys into the kind of the most southern and eastern that we've gone. We went into the Mykolaiv region to visit villages there that had been occupied by Russian forces last year. But Ukraine took back the territory, but it is in dire need of the supplies and food that we brought because they are mostly agricultural. The country is mostly agricultural, but in particular this region. And the Russians, when they left a lot of mines all over the land, so it's difficult to farm until it's demined. And they also have the only industry really in that village was a sugar beet factory, which had also been bombed. So they were without jobs as well. So they were in dire need of the supplies that we brought. This is a little photo spread of the Rotarians that volunteer their time every month to make these trips into Ukraine to bring supplies. And you can see some of the planning efforts. And on the bottom right is Steve and Alex, who are not on this Zoom, but they're the 2 Rotarians from Plymouth, our partners, who kind of lead this campaign. And that is our wonderful translator, Magdalena, who's an amazing person and helps us understand what's going on. So these are some of the photos from our last trip. This is the devastation that we see on the convoys. That helps inspire us every month to continue our fundraising and help these communities and their children. And these are more photos from the last trip. Again, the photo on the left is in the Mykolaiv region. Actually, the day after we left there, not this particular village, but where another one of the Rotary vans went was under missile attack the day after we left there. But these are the people lining up for much needed food in an area that's been devastated by the war. So RY is the children. This is one of the kids that we just met in Mykolaiv. She was living in that same village I just talked about. She's holding a beanie baby and a solar lantern. These are some of the supplies that we bring specifically for the children. So it's not just food and supplies that we bring, but we also bring emotional support and just that sense of love from around the world. So these children know that there's a whole world out there that's caring for them and cares enough to bring them little things that make them smile. And it's wonderful to connect with those kids. And next slide. So that what I just talked about were the food and supply convoys. The other thing that we do that's really powerful are the mental health retreats for Ukrainian children. These happen every month in Zakopane, Poland. The kids are between the ages of 8 and 12 years old, more or less. They are all children of soldiers who have been killed in this conflict. The retreats happen every month. They last about 2.5 to 3 weeks, and there are about 30 to 35 children in each retreat. They come from all over Ukraine. So when they meet in Lviv to get on the Common Man for Ukraine buses to come into Poland for the retreat, they're meeting each other for the first time. And it's really powerful to see them connect with other kids that are going through the same thing that they are. They realize they're in a community of children that have all lost their fathers and sometimes moms or other family members. They get to come into Poland to a beautiful area that used to be part of Austria. There's mountains, there's thermal pools, there's hiking. The kids go on horse-drawn carriage rides. They do art therapy, music therapy. They made pizzas with us. That's Alex making pizzas with the kids. On the left is a picture of 3 of the counselors that are so every month, the retreats are staffed by Ukrainian counselors, medical doctors, psychologists, art therapists, and so forth. A lot of them are actually Rotarians themselves or are friends of Rotarians. And there's about a cadre of about 20 of these counselors, and they circle in each month. So the 4 might come in one month, and then they might staff the retreat maybe 2 months later. So there's a lot of, again, Rotarians that are serving these kids every month in this way. So these are pictures of children doing some therapeutic writing exercises. We have the children write letters to Zelensky. We have them write about their emotions. They do different activities, like a backpack of emotions. And that's on the right-hand side, you'll see the picture of emotions. They talk about things that they want to carry with them versus some of the emotions that maybe they want to let go of. There's group counseling, there's small group, large group, and individual counseling at the retreats. This particular picture is at the end of each day, they kind of go around the room and they talk about what was good and bad that day. And this is one of those sharing times at the retreat that we attended in August. And this is a video. Hang on one second. Hi, my name is Lisa Murray, and I'm with the Common Man for Ukraine. We are here in Zakopane, outside of Zakopane, Poland. And this is Anna, and this is Maxim, and this is Ilya, and this is our fearless leader, Richard. And Richard is from the Zamość Rotary Club, who organizes this camp every month for children from Ukraine who have lost their fathers in the war. I'm privileged to be one of the Common Man for Ukraine organizers who raise funds in the United States to help fund this camp. And we call it a health or therapeutic camp because it's a time when the kids get to be away from maybe some of the chaos of their lives in Ukraine, and they get to just be kids and go to water parks. And they went to the zoo in Krakow the other day with us. They're great kids, and it's a privilege to be able to come and spend time with them.
How did you hear about this camp? And how did you decide to come? Я приходжу додому з танців, мені мама така говорить, хочеш я тобі хорошу новину розкажу? Я давай, ти їдеш у табір в Польщу. Я починаю просто, не знаю, там, кричати, тому що була дуже рада. Так, тут там дуже подобається. Ми в Польщі, мені дуже подобається, коли ми їдемо екскурсіями. Це ще коли ти бачиш нові якісь краєвиди, Польща дуже красива. Тут те відчуття, коли ти почуваєш себе безпечно, ти не боїшся, ти не боїшся тривог, ти не боїшся, що тобі щось може статися погано.
Jesteśmy bardzo zadowoleni z tego, że te turnusy przynoszą znaczną poprawę. Na początku dzieci są nieśmiałe, później nabierają większej pewności siebie, są radosne. Ta rehabilitacja przynosi fantastyczne rezultaty. Proszę więc naszych przyjaciół ze Stanów Zjednoczonych, żeby dalej kontynuowali tą pracę i dostarczali im środków na dalszą kontynuację tych turnusów.
Dobry dzień. Dobry dzień.
Well, I didn't need to do any of the talking. That video kind of says it all. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Susan. She's a much better speaker and she can talk about kind of the summary of what we do and what we're hoping for in our relationship with other Rotary groups. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. And we're a great team, all four of us. Lisa was humble in her presentation. Her partner, Alex Ray, is a founder of a company of restaurants here in New Hampshire. And when we got started, we knew that other people around the world wanted to help but didn't know how. And it was his inspiration that said, we need to go to Ukraine. We need to go meet Rotarians in Poland and Ukraine and figure out how we could play an important role in helping people. And in order to support that vision, he donated $1 million, $1 million match that he thought would inspire other people to donate, and it did. We raised that match in the first year, and we've now continued because the need continues to grow. We're up to $3.5 million in donations now, and the capacity of our system is limited only by our donations. And so as they continue to roll in, we continue to provide these services for kids. We do go, Lisa, Alex, Steve, and I, to Ukraine every 2 to 3 months. We pay for our own trips. We don't take anything out of donations for our airfare, et cetera. And we go for 3 important reasons. One is to reinforce our relationships with the dozens of Rotary volunteers that make this magic happen every month. So these Polish Rotarians are volunteers who leave their families and their businesses and drive to the border of Ukraine and into a war zone, and hours and days of driving to get to Kyiv and back is about 2,500 mile round trip. To get to Odessa and back is more than 3,000 miles. And these volunteers drive these trucks filled with food and sleeping bags and generators to remote villages and safe houses. And we couldn't do this work without their unbelievable dedication and bravery. And so we go often to do the convoys with them. It's arduous work. It's tough work. Emotionally and physically, and we want them to know we appreciate it and we're willing to do it ourselves. We want to see our aid in action. We want to make sure that every delivery matches the receipts we receive. Steve Rand, one of the co-founders, is a Rotarian and is the treasurer of the Plymouth Rotary Foundation and the treasurer of this project. We also want to stay nimble to check that what we're providing are exactly what is needed on the ground, that the kids who need sleeping bags get them, the kids who need generators in their safe houses get them, and the remote villages, if they need an extra influx of food, that they get that as well. So we want to ground truth what we do. There's plenty of obstacles along the way. First and foremost, we're in a war zone. When we check into a hotel, they let us know where the bomb shelter is, not where the pool is. There's 3 languages at all times. It's us, our Polish volunteers, and our Rotarian Ukrainian connection. So just stumbling along, just doing the most mundane thing requires cooperation and a lot of sign language. The safety of our volunteers is foremost, and we have to juggle where active bombing is. We need to make sure that if the air alert indicates we have a problem, we have close ties with the military. We check in with them. We submit our itinerary to them. They've often told us, you shouldn't go that way today. We'd like you to go up towards the north of the country or the southeast of the country. So we maintain a high priority for safety for our volunteers. Roads, it's a war zone. Here we are in winter. They're not plowing the roads, and we've run into all kinds of problems. We take extra long routes to get to some villages because the cross-country roads are not being maintained and are impassable. The border is always a challenge, but our Rotary connections are really miraculous to get us across the border. We are now quite well known by the military, and at the border crossings, Common Man for Ukraine is known for bringing humanitarian aid to children. And while another large truck might wait 5 to 10 days to cross the border because of the required inspections, we're able to drive right to the border, identify ourselves as Common Man for Ukraine, submit the paperwork of where all our donations are going, who's receiving them, and we get to cross within a couple of hours. That's a huge help for our volunteers. And we want to assure at all times that none of our donations or none of our supplies are being diverted from the kids. So we want to make sure it's going right from a Rotarian's hands into the hands of a child. We understand that what we're doing is not only feeding kids, but we're building peace. We want every person who comes in contact with Common Man for Ukraine to understand that we are people from around the world who care about ordinary Ukrainians and their safety and their independence, and that we're bringing them love, food, and a message of peace and goodwill. While we've raised $3.5 million and we're working hard every month, we have a lot more good to do. We want to maintain our food program, which is about 20 tons of food a month into safe houses and remote villages where kids are hiding. We'd like to double the capacity of our retreat counseling programs for kids who've lost a father in the war. Unfortunately, the 30 kids a month that we serve doesn't meet the demand. We have quite a reputation. Our retreat is well respected, and there's a long waiting list of children who have lost their dads, who would like to participate in this trauma counseling retreat. With enough funding, we'd love to double the capacity. We also understand that 3 weeks doesn't solve this problem for these children. They're going to face a lifetime of trauma and loss from not only the loss of their parent, but also the ongoing trauma of the worry they carry for their remaining parent, their relatives and friends, their communities and schools. And this is something that will plague them for the rest of their lives. So we want to armor them with the very foundational tools to deal with trauma and self-care. And we'd like to do that in a more comprehensive way by setting up 24/7 moderated chat groups. We can talk more about that, but I know we're running out of time. And we want to expand our mental health services to many retreats for the mothers, because we've visited kids that have graduated from our retreats months later in their own homes. And what we observe and hear from the mothers is, well, my child came home with a great suitcase full of tools and experiences, but her life is still shattered, and she didn't get the help to start to deal with and support her child. So we'd like to extend our programs to moms retreats. So how do you raise $3.5 million when you're 4 people in the middle of New Hampshire? Well, people all over the world have known that they wanted to help and needed a way, and we hope we provided them with a safe and efficient Rotary insured way to do that. And people have simply written a check. We've gotten $5 bills in envelopes. We've gotten an anonymous donation for $250,000 and everything in between. You can see bluegrass concert, matching grants, a line dance, baseball games. Top right-hand corner is a fifth grader who sold his construction paper flags for $1 a piece and sent us $48 and inspired the donation of thousands of other dollars because people saw his story and realized if Robbie could do that, then I can help too. So I am not a Rotarian. Lisa, neither of us are, but our partners, Steve and Alex, are. And I just can't tell you the enormity of the good that this Rotary connection is doing for thousands and thousands of children in Ukraine. And if you feel like this little bit of magic is something you'd like to help, there's a number of ways you can help. One thing you could do would be to host a fundraiser at your club in your community. That would be fantastic. You could help us spread the word, tell other people you know who might care about Ukrainians about what Common Man for Ukraine is doing, and that you've heard our presentation and you understand that we're an honorable organization that's rooted in all the four-way test of Rotary. And the best thing you can do is understand that you are the best network we have, that you spreading the word, sharing our website with others, you can tell your friends and relatives about us, that somewhere you may, in a second or third degree of separation, find somebody who wants to donate or wants to support us, wants to write an article for a major newspaper or find us some publicity on the television or social media. All of that matters. Telling our story, helping people help us is what matters, and you can be part of that. And
Thank you so much. That was an incredible presentation. What an amazing organization doing amazing work. We can